Each day on Idaho Matters, through a wide range of topics, you'll hear from neighbors and friends about the ever-evolving social and cultural landscapes of Idaho. Listen to the Idaho Matters podcast at boisestatepublicradio.org today.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. I'm George Prentice. Good morning. Today we'll tell you how the Ryan Lee debacle is going to be costing the city of Boise a lot more money. We have an update on depredation of cattle, this time from grizzlies in eastern Idaho. And we've got the outlook, the all-important outlook for Halloween. It is Tuesday, the 29th of October, and here we go with today's stories. A lawsuit against the City of Boise and former Boise Police Chief Ryan Lee will end up costing 6 times more in legal fees than originally expected. Julie Lucatau reports.
Initially slated to cost $50,000, the legal fees will now run about $300,000. Earlier this month, the city settled the suit filed in 2023 by Sergeant Kirk Rush, who accused the former head of the BPD, Ryan Lee, of causing severe injury to his neck during a training exercise. Following court-ordered mediation, Boise settled with Rush to the tune of $850,000. Rush sought compensation for a 2021 incident where Lee demonstrated an unapproved neck hold on him. The officer alleges Lee's maneuver was done in retaliation over a dispute the two men had over the force's canine unit. A spokesperson for Boise says the increased cost is due to the case taking longer than expected and the city having to cover the cost of both its own defense team and that of the former police chief. The higher legal fees will not impact the city's budget as per its insurance policy. It already was on the hook for the first $500,000 of the litigation costs. The rest will be covered by insurance. Lee left the BPD in the fall of 2022 after Mayor Lauren McLean asked him to resign. Julie Lucatau, Boise State Public Radio News.
When we have stories about depredation, they more often than not involve wolves. But this week, members of the Idaho Legislature's Natural Resources Committee got some sobering news concerning grizzlies.
But there's really no way around it. This last year was a very, very difficult year in eastern Idaho related to grizzly bears. It was a tough year for livestock. It was a tough year for livestock producers. It was a tough year for our staff, and it was a tough year for the grizzly bears themselves.
This is John Rochelle, Deputy Director of Idaho Fish and Game. He told lawmakers yesterday that this season has seen an unprecedented number of depredations on cattle attacked by grizzlies in eastern Idaho, particularly in and around the Fremont County community of Island Park.
Without knowing all of the causes, that very, very dry summer, low berry production, and the overlap of summer grazing season with grizzly bears contributed to bears likely turning to cattle as an alternative food source.
Meanwhile, there's a lot more conversation about grizzlies not on ranches, but closer to their natural habitats and the fact that there are more than a few roads through where they live. All of this comes after the world-famous bear 399 was hit by a car outside of Jackson, Wyoming. The driver was not speeding, but Hannah Merzbach reports that creative signs with graphics could help other bears.
Over time, the typical highway signs saying things like bear crossing can become easy to tune out.
The sign becomes kind of visual noise potentially. It's just like something you see every day as you're commuting.
But University of Montana professor Will Rice says more creative signs could reduce the odds of speeding by 35%. In an experiment in Grand Teton National Park last summer, one of these said, "Slow down. When a cub dies, our community mourns," in a Winnie the Pooh font. Rice says its effectiveness is rooted in social norms.
Because if you do hit a bear, your neighbors are going to be upset.
According to a police report, the driver that hit Grizzly 399 swerved into her only to save her cub. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Hannah Merzbach.
Quite cool across the region today, and Stephen Parker at the Weather Service in Boise tells us trick-or-treaters will need to be ready for cold, wet weather on Halloween.
We're going to have another system moving in late Wednesday night into Thursday. It looks like about an 80 to 90% chance of rain.
Meanwhile, meteorologists and water managers from across the region were briefed yesterday on what we can expect in the coming weeks and months, stretching through winter and even into early spring. Up top, meteorologist Guillaume Mauger shared that data from the last few months confirms our average temperatures have been well above normal.
That warm anomaly has increased, so the last 2 months are warmer, and then that dry anomaly is more extreme as well.
Looking ahead, Dr. Jana Infanti with the Northwest Climate Prediction Center tells us what we can expect for the next 8 to 14 days, which is to say stretching into mid-November.
So just pointing out that in the beginning of November, what we might expect for the Northwest is above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation.
And then the long-range forecast, December, January, February, and beyond.
You can see that now below normal temperatures are favored for the Northwest, along with a weak probability of above normal precipitation. And then January, February, March, fairly similar, below normal temperatures, above normal precipitation.
And experts say that weather pattern may well put us back into drought conditions for the next water year. And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. And if this is part of your routine, we'd love it if you could rate or review The Connector wherever you're listening right now. And feel free to spread the word in your circle or share The Connector with a friend that you might think would like it. And thanks for listening.
The candidates for November are set.
I know Donald Trump's type.
Between now and Election Day,
we are not going back.
A campaign season unfolding faster.
Kamala Harris is not getting a promotion
Than any in recent history.
Make America great again.
Follow it all with new episodes every weekday on the NPR Politics Podcast.